Right. So you told me that your business is involved in cloud, like Oracle, and you do migrations. Can you talk a little bit about your business? What are the other things that you are involved in, and what is going on in that space?
Sure. Like as I said, we manage two lines of business. One is recruitment, which is IT recruitment, that's
Okay.
staffing. But a lot of our IT recruitment actually originates from our Oracle-based clients, generally speaking. But that
Okay.
is more easy to understand, I guess, because that's more common. But the other side of business is where we do take on, we are like a consulting company, like Deloitte consulting type, you can say, at a
Okay.
high level. So we, when your customer needs help with managing their ERP system or migrating to cloud, we can help them. We can show them how to. We can create like a roadmap for them, show
Oh.
them what it means, what it involves to move to cloud, what kind of time and effort will be required, what kind of
Hmm.
set will be required, and then we can, once we take on the project, these projects tend to involve a big chunk of your company generally because a lot of
Hmm.
departments are affected. So you have to keep all that in mind. Not only that, there are always other third-party software that are
Hmm.
integrating to these ERP systems. So there are a lot of moving pieces. So you have to
Hmm.
come up with a good project plan, coordinate, make sure everybody is up to speed, they know what's happening. So there are a lot of things. So those are the kind of things we help customers with because
Okay.
customers generally they don't know much about how it will impact. Like moving to cloud means what? They
Hmm.
don't really understand the depth of that, until they talk to a consulting company. We help them with. Yeah.
Okay, got it. So when a customer comes up to you and says that I am trying to move to the cloud, I'm sure it's not possible for just you or two, three people to make up the whole project plan. So how do you deal with that? Do you recruit new people or do you have a big engineering team as well?
No, so it really depends on the skill set required because every
Hmm.
situation is slightly different. Even though Oracle database may sound like similar everywhere, but it's not exactly like that. Even in ERP system, we have to understand the modules that, like, for example, they use order management, inventory.
Right.
It's a
Okay.
different skill set compared to financial modules like general ledger and accounts receivable. So you have to
Okay.
understand which skill set is required. And then, of course, you have to understand how big it is. Is it just a small project, small setup that we are trying to move? It may require
Hmm.
just one or two people. If it's much bigger, it may be 20 people. And you have to understand what kind of skill set they already have on their client team because
Okay.
sometimes they have a lot of expertise already. So you may not need to bring as many people. So initial stages, you have to ask a lot of questions to gather
Hmm.
requirements, gather understanding of where they are, and then understand where they are trying to go to, and then
Hmm.
build a team.
Okay, got it. We want to understand about how this type of recruitment works. In India, I have only applied to companies directly. I have never gone through an agency or a middleman. And I think in the US, the agency module that your company is doing is more popular, right, as compared to India. So how does that work? How do you get companies to agree that we'll recruit from you? And how do you filter out the candidates?
Yeah, so I think what you are referring to is contractors versus
Right,
kind of
right.
full-time employees. So it is true that I think it is more common. I won't say more popular, but more common in US compared to India. I think in India it's still relatively new
Hmm.
concept in some ways. But in US, as long as you can establish your expertise and you can
Hmm.
convince somebody, I think it's not as big a hurdle. But
Okay.
again, it all comes down to your own network, how you present yourself, how whether people trust you or not with your expertise. So it comes down to the individual level, right? But as far as recruiting is concerned, we go through the kind of similar steps, I would say, what people in India go through, which is somebody posts a resume on a job board, and then
Okay.
from there, some recruiting agency will find it and call you and go through the due diligence. and then match it against the job description and things like that. So those are, I think, are very similar steps. But
Okay.
how do you get employed may be different, may vary. I mean, for individuals here in US, it's relatively easy if you want to be on your own. But
Hmm.
end of the day, the challenges are same. When you are on your own, really there is nobody else to support you in that sense. Once the project is over, you have to find another project. You have to,
Another.
you have to keep that cycle always continues.
Yeah.
I think people who are doing well in contracting world in the US, the people who are self-motivated, you have to
Okay.
have a little bit of confidence that they can manage that. But it can be a very rewarding experience too, because you
Okay.
are, to a certain extent, you are able to control your own destiny, as they say, compared
Hmm.
to working
Right.
for some other company. Yeah.
Right. Are there any pay differences? Like, are contract based jobs better paying?
Absolutely. That's the only reason people are doing it.
Okay.
The pay difference can be very significant, like really
Oh.
significant difference. Yeah. So it really depends, of course, on individuals, how they are able to convince, but the differences are there. I mean, and quite a
Hmm.
bit, I would say. So, but it all comes down to some people prefer security of a job, knowing that more likely you are going to have a paycheck versus somebody else willing to take a chance. So
Hmm.
you get rewarded for taking that chance by getting more higher pay, but you don't have that security. So it's all give and take kind of.
Okay, got it. So talking about cloud and DevOps field, how is the scenario of those profiles in the US? Like, as a recruiting agency, do you get a lot of demand for such roles, and how are the candidates?
Huge demand. I mean, very huge demand. I don't know, like, why we can't have more people already, because it's been like that for a few years. But yeah, there's a lot of demand. But I think one of the challenge in this field has been that, there's always something new keeps coming up. Everybody wants the latest skill set, latest technology that's already out there, but people are just not getting trained in them. So technology is way ahead versus skill set being developed is
Hmm.
lacking by a lot right now, at least in this particular field. So that's
Okay.
why demand is very high. There's just not enough people because they can't get trained fast enough.
You have been working around 15 years in this cloud and Oracle databases field. What would be the one advice that you would like to give for people who are trying to get in on this field or trying to progress in this field?
Yeah, what I would say is people who are curious and who are willing to learn are the only type of people I can see being successful in this field. Because
Okay.
every day, I mean, not every day necessarily, but there's always new things coming up. Very hard to keep up. Everybody is not interested in that. Some people
Right.
prefer more steady and stable approach, stable lifestyle. I mean, this particular field is not meant for that kind of attitude. You need to be on your own. You have to learn on your own. You have to be
Right.
willing to put your own time. You may have a
Hmm.
8 to 5 job, but after 8 to 5, you have to spend on your own time to
Time.
learn. And if you
Right.
don't have that kind of, it has to come from within you. It cannot be somebody telling you that, hey, you need to learn so you can get a better job. It's not as simple as that. You have to learn this stuff on your own because it's a constant thing. It's not going to stop today, tomorrow. Like it's not like you learned so much now you are done.
Hmm.
It's just never going to be like that. So I think
Okay.
you have to have that kind of personality, that kind of thought process that, yeah, I'm going to learn and I enjoy that learning part. That's part of the journey to get to wherever you are going. And it will
Okay.
probably never end. So, yeah.
Yeah. Since this field is having a lot of new things coming, what do you think the situation would be like after 4 to 5 years? What would be that new technology? What would be in demand? What do you think?
Yeah, I think obviously it's hard to tell. But you know what? One time I was attending, like somebody was giving a speech about his own experience. He, at the time, had like 30, 40 years of experience related to technology. And one thing he said was, he sees that every 15 to 20 years, the industry goes through a big transformation. And like so
Okay.
back in 2000, around that time, there was a big transformation. Everything went to internet, social media,
Right.
all started to come up. And now in last 2, 3, maybe 3, 4 years, all this cloud, is the new transformation happening. Everybody's moving to cloud. Now the next thing is going to be, I guess, machine learning is one
Hmm.
thing. One area is I feel like will take off a bit more than where it is right now. So it may not be just 4 to 5 years, but maybe another 10 years. We are in the middle of big transformation right now. And so another maybe 15 years, you will see another huge transformation, which will be very different and something we can't even imagine right now.
Okay. Got it. And I think that this machine learning and AI ML transformation that is going to occur, cloud is going to be at the center of it because these platforms are now introducing services that help people to make use of AI ML in a easier way,
Absolutely.
right?
Yeah, exactly. And that's really how these transformations take place.
Hmm.
Something that was done before, it helps the next stage. You cannot
Right.
get to the cloud directly if you are not already doing some things on the internet, right? So
Right.
same thing with the AI ML. Since things have become relatively easier now by going to cloud, changing servers, for example, which used to be a
Hmm.
huge deal back 10, 15 years ago. Now it's a matter of minutes. So those kind of improvements make it possible for the next technology to take place. And so it's incrementally we get to the next stage. And definitely, I think AI ML will happen because of cloud and because of improvements on cloud. Yeah.
Got it. So, last question now. The question is regarding COVID. What has changed after COVID? What has been the impact of COVID on contract jobs and your recruitment?
Right. During COVID, of course, things were very different. And now we are, we can say, almost done with that, or at least at the tail end of it. So
Hmm.
now it seems like that things are going to start to go back to the way they used to be, but they will never go back to 100%. There will be
Right.
some tug of war between how things used to be. So I think a lot of things will be like hybrid model is what I see becoming more common, where companies are more open to working from home, maybe few days work from home, few days in the office. Those
Hmm.
are going to become more common. But
Okay.
as far as the recruitment part is concerned, I think one of the big challenge we are facing right now is people are not willing to go to office and work from office. They are all resisting it as much as possible because
Right.
majority of people are used to working from home. They feel like they're more productive. They feel like they get more flexibility to live their life too. But of course, management is in a different mindset right now. So we'll have to sort it out next year or so. But I think until all that happens, recruiting is going to be a big challenge because anytime we find a candidate and tell them that they have to go to office, we lose a lot of candidates just based on that. They don't want to go to office. They are in some other city. They're like, I don't
Hmm.
want to relocate for this and all that. So the recruiting is a big challenge from that point of view because of.
Okay. Got it. I was just thinking, and I have one more question to ask you. We could not really get to that topic, but I think it would be interesting to know your viewpoint on that. So, 15 years or 10 years back, I think the technology and the work that was happening in the computer science field was tremendous. And countries like India were behind, significantly behind the US in all these developments. But now what we are seeing is India and other countries are trying to catch up. What do you think is the situation like as a person working in tech? Do you feel that the US is still significantly ahead in terms of technological development, or India has caught up?
Yeah, that's a good question. I think what I see as far as this set is concerned, In India, at least, I can see do recruitment in India as well. I think that quality of skill set and quality of resources has improved significantly. I mean, like a whole lot better today than just 10 years ago. I can see that similar type of resources are available. What you find in US are also available in India now. It wasn't like that, I would say, just 10, 15 years ago, from my point of view. Having said that, I think the development work in India, all of that is happening, even at least from what I see, is they are still catering to companies in US outside India. Like in US, most companies are using these technologies, right? I mean, for
Right.
their own companies' products, whatever they are working on. I don't know if that it's at the same level or anywhere close to that in India. Indian companies are not able to invest that kind of money in,
Hmm.
or maybe they don't see the need or whatever the case may be, but they are not, with the exception of few top companies, most other companies are not able to use these technologies. So a lot of work
Right.
is being done and skill set and all that is getting developed, but they are not for Indian companies, for India's own businesses to benefit from. They are
Right.
benefiting somebody like outside India.
One reason for that could be that US companies can pay in dollars, right?
Yeah, money is always there. But also, I think most of the software is still getting developed from US. So the cost of software is very high for companies in India. It hasn't come down to where it becomes a normal thing. They're buying a lot of other things too. They can, in theory, they should be able to buy software as well. But I think that cost is still very high versus the
Hmm.
value they see is not there, I guess. I think some of that will come down, I believe, as companies start to do more, as companies start to become more rich in India,
Hmm.
maybe they will be able to afford it. And then with volume adoption, cost may start to come down in India as well.
That was interesting. That's all the questions that I had. If there's anything that you feel that you can talk about, which could be insightful to all our viewers, please feel free to do that.
Sure. But before that, I want to ask you one question. So the purpose of this, like, who are the audience? Who are you trying to share this with? So who do
Right.
you think is going to benefit from this? What kind of
So
group, I guess?
my target audience for this conversation would be people who are interested in cloud and containers, people who are working as cloud engineers or DevOps engineers. I think they would get some insight from all the answers that are going on in this series. And apart from that, since you are from the US and you have provided us some perspective, I think people and many of my friends who are trying to go and join the workforce in the US, who are pursuing their masters in the US, they might also get some insights.
Right.
That's the target audience.
Okay, great. So I think I would say is people, first of all, like I mentioned earlier, you have to be willing to learn and put the time to learn on your own. You cannot wait for somebody else to teach you and send you to training. I think those days are, they're not there anymore. No
Right.
company has that kind of time to send you to training for 2 weeks, 3 weeks. So you have to find your own time, and it has to come from within you. If you have that kind of mentality that I have to do it because it's going to benefit me, and in the process it will help the company as well eventually. But first it has to be that I want to learn this. This is something new which excites me. I think that's the right attitude to have to even start to think about this field. And then the
Right.
second, I feel like second type of people who are generally successful or do well in this is people from engineering background. I think this is a field is more suitable for that kind of background. And ideally, if you have computer science background, I think that's even better. But at least
Hmm.
having that analytical type mindset is also very, very important. Problem solving, understand the problem first, and then try to find a solution. I think those are the skill sets that like you need at a high level. So that's what I would suggest, that first make sure you are really passionate about this field, not only about this field, but about learning about this field, because learning is
Right.
a process that's always going to be there. It's not going to end with learning about DevOps today. DevOps is also evolving all the time. So you have to, like, you shouldn't get frustrated by that, is what I'm saying. You need to have that open mindset that, yeah, I know something new is coming. So that's the bottom line, I think, is what will make you a successful person in this industry.
Got it. And I think our viewers should recognize this fact that what Sir is saying is tested, because now here is a person from civil engineering background, not in his comfort zone, like he was in the US and he spent most of his life in India before that. And he has transitioned from civil engineering to computer science field. And now he's running a business with computer science as its center. Those things can only happen if a person is curious and willing to learn and willing to put in the effort. So that's one of the key takeaways from our conversation. One other thing that I'd like to add to your answer would be that while you learn about these things, like while you try to learn and get some hands-on experience with the cloud as well as DevOps field, it would take you some time to get familiar with these things, right? Even if you're trying to do something very simple like starting a virtual machine, for the first few days you are going to struggle in such simple tasks as well. And I think that's part of the process. That's part of the process that we all have gone through. So don't worry, put in the effort and put in the time, and then eventually it will work out.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. I think you should be prepared for that. And the way I see it is, if it was very simple, then anybody can do it. But
Mm,
as we are seeing, not anybody can just do it. These are really hard field, hard skills to learn. And that's why you need to have some background, some aptitude, some willingness. It's not something that you can just walk in and start doing. It's just not like that. Like we said, you have to be ready to put in that, be set the right expectation that it's not something you can
right.
learn overnight. It will take some time, hands-on experience. You have to jump in the field and get in there and do it. And then that's the only way to learn and move forward. Yeah.
Got it. Thank you. I think your answers are going to help us a lot. And you have shared very interesting things about tech in the US and the work that you're doing and your business as well. It's quite inspiring for a lot of us. I would like to thank you for coming and agreeing to this and having this interesting conversation with me.
Sure. Yeah. Thanks, Shishir. I really enjoyed talking to you. Your questions are very interesting. I was very happy to share my own experience. I hope it helps somebody somewhere. And it was really very nice to talk to you. And I want to wish you the best in your career. I know you're just starting out, so you have a full life ahead of you. I
Yeah,
want to see you, and of course, your other colleagues and friends who are pursuing this area. I want to see them, get to the next level in their career very soon. Yeah.
thank you. Thank you a
All
lot.
right.
Okay.
Okay.
Bye
Bye
bye.
bye. Bye.
Bye bye.